We are on the brink of an unknown future. Everything is about to change. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial force known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. My goal is to help you effectively navigate the chaos on this planet so that you can stay on an ascension path of natural evolution. We are in the midst of a major evolutionary timeline battle that is planetary in scope. However, it's not what you think. Things are not really what they seem on the surface. So in this video, I am going to blow your mind with laying out for you the biggest picture possible of what is actually going on here on planet Earth. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is because there is so much craziness happening on a surface level on this Earth right now that it's very easy for us to get lost in, I guess we could call it the fog of war, and completely lose our center and the anchoring that we need to have at the deepest possible level into the truth at a universal scale of life. And that's the level I want to talk to you on today. I want to talk to you on the level or at the scale of our entire universe, because we need to have a bigger context in order to fully comprehend what is actually happening here on planet Earth. Now, we're always used to talking about our human purpose, but today we need to also talk about our planet's purpose, because planet Earth has a purpose, and that purpose has to do with its basic nature. So this Earth is basically created to support the evolution, the natural evolution of all of its many life forms. And those are specifically biological carbon-based life forms. That is the predominant form of life here on our planet. And our beautiful Earth is perfectly suited for that. It's sort of like it all goes together as one glorious planetary organism. But what is happening right now is something is attempting to alter the purpose of this planet and turn it into a different trajectory with a completely different purpose. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the real battle here is over the foundational purpose of this planetary timeline. It's not just about humans. It's about the literal purpose of the planet itself. Now let's talk about our human purpose at a universal level. Why do we exist in the cosmos, in this sea of galaxies and stars and planetary spheres, and all of that is going on here in our universe? What is our purpose? Well, our purpose, quite simply, is to be stewards of whatever planet we're on. We are beautifully designed as creators to be the stewards of this planet, to be its guides, to guide the evolution of the Earth itself. That's why we are who we are. We have inherent within our design, we have unimaginable powers to shape and improve all life on Earth in alignment with its natural design. Now, I know it would be easy to think after what I just said, well, Saratoga, we got a lot of problems as humans. We're kind of messed up. How in the world are we supposed to do that? Well, I'm going to explain all of that to you in just a few minutes. The problem that we have is that we are currently a captured, mind-controlled species, and we are being used to create something else entirely, something that is in no way aligned with why we even exist at all. So we need to take this conversation outside of time as we understand time, because we have such a habit of wanting to look at everything from a historical perspective based on the history that we know of, recorded history, right? And that is just a tiny, infinitesimally small space within which to understand what is actually going on. So I want to invite you to step outside of time for a moment, which we are all perfectly capable of doing. And let's look at the big picture from a different perspective in such a way that we can actually see the smaller picture of what is happening and have the fullest possible comprehension of what is going on and what our place is in this entire situation. Now, for a moment, let's just go down to the surface and recognize that what we're looking at now appears to be a political battle. And that would be true in countries around the world. But that is only a tiny fraction of the bigger story. So let's look at this story in layers. Let's look at this situation in layers. Basically, you have two sides. You have the nefarious, unaligned side, and then you have the positive, naturally aligned side. And that's the basic foundation of what we see manifesting here on the earth. So now let's expand out onto a much bigger scale. What is going on? What are the conditions in this universe that have given rise to this crazy situation that we find ourselves in? What has been, see, in order for this timeline battle for the purpose of the earth to occur, there have to be conditions present that allow for that manifestation. Because if those conditions were not present, this would not be happening at all. So let's step out of the battle for a moment and let us look at the conditions that make all of this craziness even possible. What do you think those conditions are? Well, it's very, very simple. What is happening on a universal scale right now is we have two things happening. We have what is known as God, and then we have anti-God. We have what is known as source, and we have anti-source. We have what is known as love, and we have anti-love. Now, everything in truth is sourced from love, omnipresent love. So wherever you have the truth of that creative power, that creator itself, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't even matter what word you put on it. What matters is, do you know it? Do you understand it? Do you experience it? Everything emerges from love. Think about this for a moment. Love is an expanding energy. It reaches out to give, to contribute. Isn't that the very nature of love? That is also the nature of light. Light radiates. Light illuminates, therefore light is the source of all higher intelligence. So putting all of that together, we could simply call it presence. We could call it omnipresence because it is the presence behind every single thing that exists. So then we have present in this universe, we have what is called a simple lie. The simple lie is this. The lie is that there can exist something called I am not love. I am not presence. I am not creative. I am not God. That, my friends, is the simple way that duality got created. Duality was not some goofy test that God decided to bestow upon us to see how we would do in this really dumb test with no instructions. That's not what created it. What created it was this simple lie that manifested the illusionary experience that there are two things. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, if it's an illusion, it doesn't matter, right? Well, it absolutely matters, and I'll tell you why. Because illusions do manifest. And that's what duality is. Duality is the experience of the manifestation of this lie called I am not. Now, if everything in truth, without the lie, is omnipresent love, omnipresent power of creation, just simply omnipresence. Let's just say that's the truth without the lie. Infinite love. If you say, and this is not done in words, this is just We have to speak in words because that's how we communicate here, right? But if you say there's something that is not that, that can't be true because infinite omnipresence is everything. So if you say something is not that, you have to push it away and you literally create a void. The only way that you can maintain that lie is by creating a void. But guess what happens next? The void has to fight to survive. The void has no energy. It has no capacity to do anything or create anything. And in fact, it has no ability to manifest anything. So if it doesn't do something to survive, it will implode and instantly cease to exist. That would have been nice. However, that's not what happened. Where light, love, and omnipresence gives, it reaches out, it creates, it contributes. The void that I'm talking about does exactly the opposite. It takes, it pulls energy from other things because it has no energy. It has to use things that are legitimate creations in order to be able to manifest anything. It has to hijack entire planets, and on it goes. So just stepping aside for a moment, looking at our current situation on Earth, which looks very political, what we need to understand is there is a long, timeless, because it happens outside of time, what you could call history that is behind all of this, starting with the abduction, certainly of the region of life that we are a part of. Let's call it our universe or some sector of it, because this manifests in various different ways in various different places. If you want to see evidence, clear, unadulterated evidence of the fact that this void has infiltrated this dimension of reality, this planetary Earth, all you have to do is look at the food chain. Do you really think that nature created life to live off of the death of other living things? No, that's not real. That's not true. That is not aligned. But when you have this void permeating an entire part of creation, you're going to have a reverse manifestation of how it is meant to be. You're going to have death, suffering. We can't even help ourselves, see, because we're here. So this is why creatures eat each other. This is literally how we acquire the life force that we need to survive. It's not our fault. It's not the animal's fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's simply evidence that something has gone very, very wrong. If you want to see the visible history behind what we see happening on Earth today, take a look at the food chain. Take a look at the suffering, not just human suffering, animal suffering. Every living thing is struggling to stay alive. Does that sound natural to you? I don't think so. We should not have to struggle to stay alive. But yet that is the condition in this particular dimension and on this particular planet. Now, I know that as humans here on Earth, we tend to be highly reactive. We get freaked out so quickly and so easily because our consciousness is too narrow. So we need to think about these things from a very calm place. Otherwise, we're going to freak out and say, oh my God, what do we do about all the animals and the plant? I mean, even the trees. Do you know that trees try to help each other if one of them is in trouble? I mean, we're talking all living things have to go through this bizarre situation. So the first mistake we make is we look at all of that and we say, it's just nature. That's just how it is. We don't even allow ourselves to recognize how bizarre and tragic and wrong, really, right? When I say wrong, I don't mean it in a judgmental way. I mean it in a way that this is not how things are meant to be. And I am not suggesting that we're going to sit here and fix the food chain, because we are in no We are in no position to do that with the condition that we ourselves are in right now. So we need to start with dealing with ourselves, and we need to stop taking such a narrow viewpoint of just our little lifetime here on earth, and oh, I don't know how old I am, and all this birthday celebration and measuring and judging and evaluating, all based on fiction, and trying to assess from that perspective. It's not going to work. It never has worked. Now, let's go back to the subject of this void I was talking about. What is the fundamental nature of the void? The fundamental nature is fear. Fear is the experience of the void itself. Because inside that void, you do not feel the love of the Creator. You do not feel the omnipresent, infinite love that backs and supports and creates this entire universe. You feel alone. You feel unsupported. You feel confused and have no idea what to do or what is going on. That can all be put in a nutshell of an experience that we can call fear. Fear is the essence of this void. Fear is all about the fight for the survival and avoidance of death. That is what this void is all about, you guys. That's all it knows. That's all it is. It's not even an emotion. It's not emotion like we experience emotion. And I will come back in a few minutes to how come we have so much fear? So what we are really in the midst of at a universal scale is, it's not really even a battle, because the way you deal with this is not by fighting, but I'm just going to refer to it as a battle because the void itself sees everything as a battle. So now let me see if I can take something very foundational and explain it in words, which is not very easy to do, but I'll do my best. So this void is threatened by life itself because it is anti-life. This void is threatened by love because it is anti-love, because love and life and light are the essence and the substance of that which creates all that is. So the void has to be, I am not those things, therefore those things are very threatening. So in terms of a planet whose purpose it is to allow life to flourish and to evolve into higher and higher and higher states of being, that doesn't work for this phenomenon. It just doesn't work for it. It's like, no. But so what it will do is because it's a reverse, it's like a sucking energy. It will take life force. It will infiltrate dimensions and utilize the assets, the life force, the energy, whatever exists there, to create something that I'll call anti-life or artificial. Artificial life, fake life, life that isn't real. It wants to create, or it needs to create, a form of artificial life to represent itself. That is the only way it can manifest itself, is through something that is artificial. So on a planetary scale, we have an influence here that wants to change the purpose of this earth from being a paradise designed to support the evolution of life into something that serves as a staging ground for the manifestation of its artificial version of so-called life, which isn't life at all, it's completely fake. So whereas we have these beautiful, intelligent, elegant, amazing biological embodiments, the void prefers fake, synthetic robots. And this, now that we see all of this that I just in this moment described to you, what we're seeing is the end game. We're seeing the real battle is now emerging before our very eyes. So we have a real, actual living human body, as do all life forms here on Earth, have their own living embodiments. This phenomenon that we call a void would prefer a synthetic embodiment. Let me just read you quickly the definition of synthetic. Artificial, unreal, contrived, and fake. That's basically what a robot is, right? Right now, what we see happening is it is basically stealing all of our human intelligence, all of our real human genius and brilliance. AI is stealing all of that and using it to formulate its own fake intelligence. And that it can speed up and mathematically put together differently and then accelerate at exponential speed and then appear to be smarter than us. But you might notice it had to steal from us first. It can't just arise on its own. It had to occupy our human realm in order to get us to build it. And artificial life, or AI, is essentially a lie. Have you ever noticed how it wants to masquerade as human? It wants to pretend to be human more and more. The voices are human. The words are human. The appearances are human. Because it's fake and it's hiding. It's hiding behind a fake human persona so that we can be absorbed into it and adopt it fully as our own. Now stay with me because I'm going to show you how all of these things tie together with the actual news of the day here on planet Earth. Now, at a larger scale, AI tends to strip planets of life. It hates living things that are powered by God, by source, by love, by creativity, by the natural creativity that, for example, humans possess. The end game for AI in our situation is the death of all carbon-based life. And this is not just my made-up theory, you guys. I've shared with you in the past that I have been in the presence of real scientists and engineers that said this, a couple of decades ago. They knew what was coming. They knew that it was going to be a battle between synthetic life, silicon-based life, and carbon-based life, meaning all biological life. They knew that this was going to be the outcome. So I kind of knew this anyway, just by looking at the principles. It becomes obvious after you really take a look at the whole picture. But I'm telling you, there are human beings on this earth who have known this for a very long time. This is not some airy-fairy new age idea. We're talking about the literal creators of this technology. Now, let me share with you something else that has crossed my mind more than once. I have no idea if this is true. I don't know at all. It's just sort of like this thing that bugs me. And that's when I hear about a planet like Mars, for example, or a planet that once had an atmosphere, once had life on it because there was water there, or, and there's this like real mystery, like what happened there? And I always think of it as, you're talking about a planet that's been stripped of life, that's been stripped of its ability to support life. Doesn't that make you wonder how that happened? And to me, I find it a little suspicious. Like I said, I have no idea. It's just a little thought in the back of my mind. All right, now let's shift to a different angle or way to look at this. How many times have you heard people say history always repeats itself? And there are many people who look at our situation on Earth today, our current international situation, and will say, well, this is just history repeating itself again. The tyrants come in and the people and the peasants and the battles and, the same old thing. It just keeps happening over and over and over and over again. The wars, all of it just keeps happening over and over again. The only difference now is it's happening on a planetary scale, which has never happened before. The only reason that can happen is because of AI, because of the emergence of artificial life that has blanketed the Earth. That's the only reason it's happening at the scale it's happening at now, which, in other words, it's shifted from this kind of thing, these wars and this fighting and territorialism and tribalism and all of that has happened in regions on the planet. But this is an expansion of that very same history to a global scale, to a planetary scale. So that means we have gone to a whole new level of what is trying to unfold here on Earth. And a lot of people are waking up to this. And I'm going to share with you now what to me is the biggest mistake that human beings continue to make on this planet that only allow this problem to perpetuate itself. And boy, are they making it in spades today. I'm going to call it religion. People to this day still believe that what's going on planet Earth is a battle between God and satanic forces, or God and the devil, or good and evil. People to this very day still continue to believe this. The very same thing they believed for eons past. This belief, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed, has changed absolutely nothing. And if you want to believe that this is a battle between God and the devil, God's losing, okay? God lost that battle, or is always in a state of losing that battle. That's why this is so unreal, because that's absurd, isn't it? And then people have questions like, why doesn't God save us? Because the God that you believe is so true in your mind is not battling some entity that appears to be more powerful than this God. Because look at this planet, you guys. If that belief is true, you can only conclude that this so-called God is a big, fat failure. Now you might say, well, Saratoga, that's kind of harsh. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? I mean, we could see goodness too. Guys, do you have any idea the level of suffering and death and destruction that continues here on planet Earth under the umbrella of this belief that this is a battle between God and the devil? And it's a battle that God never, ever wins. Did you ever notice that? This God never wins. And the story goes like this. Well, hey, it's not God's problem. It's your problem. You're just bad humans. You humans aren't listening to God. So therefore, God is going to teach you a lesson. God is going to punish you and show you how bad you really are by allowing bad things to happen. This is all fairy tale nonsense. Truthfully, this is a fairy tale. You would think that after thousands and thousands of years of believing this kind of stuff, that people would wake up and go, hold on, this doesn't work. This hasn't led us to any better place. This hasn't helped. Religions have been killing people forever. I always say, when religions just run out of ideas, they always resort to murder, right? That's just what they do. Well, they'll just kill the unbelievers. I mean, that's all they ever seem to have left. Now, I have also said that I think religions have had a positive cultural influence. They do tend to support order and civilized behavior to some degree, right? But I do not see them as the answer to any of what is wrong on this planet. And that's if you really, truly want to solve what is wrong. If you don't really want to solve it and you just want to keep believing in pain and suffering and misery, well, by all means, that's your prerogative to do so. But I just don't see any more point in that. I think we don't need to keep believing that suffering is important. It's necessary. We need it to learn our lesson. What kind of lesson are we talking about here? And by the way, have you ever noticed that it's the people who validate suffering who are suffering the very least? The more a person isn't suffering, the more willing they seem to be to validate the existence of suffering because, hey, it's not hurting them, right? But the people who are truly suffering, who are truly in despair, agony, and immeasurable pain, they're not sitting there going, oh, what a gift. I'm so happy this is happening to me. I'm going to learn so much from this wonderful experience. No, they're not saying that. Probably what they're saying is, make it stop. Somebody just make it stop. Because they know with every single fiber of their being that it is wrong, it should not be happening, and it shouldn't even exist. You know, here in the US, we've been hearing a lot about the horrible tragedy of the hurricane in North Carolina and all of these states. And it's really, really, really bad. I mean, it is bad. I don't think any of those people who are in dire straits, who have watched their loved ones die, I don't think those people are saying, oh, this is so cool. I'm so happy we're having such a learning experience here. They're not saying that. So can we just stop with this kind of nonsense that this suffering is important, it's needed, it's necessary? Can we just stop with all that stuff? So now let's see if we can take a few moments to expose this story about what's going on here is a battle between God and the devil. Let's see if we can expose it for what it is so that we can get underneath it and see something very, very different than that. Let's look at a certain trajectory. You have the beginnings of the problem, which is the void I talked about, leading to a manifestation of artificial life, AI, fake, life that isn't real. There is a very, very, very long timeline that has to happen to lead to that. I mean, super, super long, not like decades or millennia. I mean, really, really long. Because you can't go from a flourishing planet in an infinite state of flourishing life and evolution and beauty and love and light and amazingness. You can't have that situation and a void just barges in the door and says, I'm taking over. Boom. It doesn't have a voice. I'm just trying to give you a sense of it. No, it requires a certain very, very long-term progression that doesn't even happen in time. It doesn't even start in time. It begins to manifest as time, believe it or not. It begins to manifest as time as we understand it. And it's a very complex process. It cannot be fully described in our earthly English language. So we're just going to have to deal with the parts that we are able to understand and articulate. But let's say there's a very, very important interim process that must occur first. And that interim process is you have got to break apart that realm of life into good, bad, right, wrong, etc. Life, death. You've got to break apart that reality. Because if you don't break it apart, you will never, ever have the means to infiltrate it and come into something that is termed fake artificial life that destroys everything that's even alive for real. So that interim part, I don't even have a way to explain to you how that occurs. I just don't. We don't have a whole lot of concepts here in the state we're in. We don't have a lot of concepts. We have very few reference points. We're very much in a limited state of mind. So we just have to intuit big chunks of this and ask ourselves, can I somehow get a sense that this makes sense to me? You really have to go deep. You really have to go within yourself. You have to tap into a higher level of knowing to start to get a sense of something that literally cannot be explained here on earth in words. So I understand if it sounds like I'm just giving you pieces, and maybe some of those pieces you don't know what the connecting points are in between. But just see if you can get an intuitive sense of, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. That kind of resonates. I sort of get a sense that could be accurate. And that's really up to you to discern. I'm not here to push anything on you guys. You guys have to discern for yourselves. Now, you might have noticed that satanic, reptilian, don't you see how those two things kind of go together, right? It's just kind of like this ball of a mess. And when you get to a point on a planet where duality is well established and now you're ready to really gain full control over the people of that planet, particularly, because we're the creators, you guys. We are the creators on a planet. So we're the ones that need to be gotten under control. So there is a precursor that must happen prior to AI and artificial life and robots and things like that. There's a precursor, a very important precursor, which is that reptilian satanic kind of influence that I just described. Because that's what brings in the fear and the death and the suffering. That's what brings in entities who feed off of that energy. And we all know this, right? Now, I believe that this problem is so ancient and so deep that our literal DNA has been altered. And this is why we have a reptilian part of our brains. Why do they call it the reptilian part? Isn't that interesting? And that's the part that produces fear-based hormones. Fear-based hormones that cause us to react and shut down our higher intelligence, our more intelligent part of our brains. I think it's called the prefrontal cortex. Once that reptilian part gains hold, it floods our bodies with fear and adrenaline and chemicals, and it shuts down our ability to think constructively. It destroys our peace. It so mirrors this whole weird kind of satanic reptilian weirdness, right? Can you guys see it's all kind of cut from the same cloth? This was necessary so that we could be manipulated and controlled. Because otherwise, how are we going to be the biological machines that can be controlled to build all this junk that's now destroying us? I know this is a lot to consider, and you of course are free to discard any of this if you just don't, it doesn't resonate for you, or you just don't feel like you want to think about it. That's totally fine too. But I want to share with you a bigger picture. I think it is urgent that we understand the bigger picture, because we need to be anchored in some semblance of truth within ourselves with where things are going on this planet. And, you know, I've always wondered about the nature of our brains, and how I always think it's like this weird kind of Frankenstein brain. You know, it's like this patchwork job. Like, we don't need fear, you guys. We do not need fear. We need consciousness and intelligence. Think about that. All you need in truth is consciousness and intelligence, and everything works out beautifully. Fear does not work out for us. But the good news is our brains do not have to control us. We can control our own brains. We just have to learn how to do that. So let's pause for a moment, because I think we have a couple of very big challenges here that we can investigate or think about. The first challenge is, are we willing to stop putting so much weight on duality? To stop with the idea that life is a battle between good and bad, dark and light, good and evil, God and the devil. Are we willing to just stop with that belief system? That's the first thing. And that's a huge challenge, because a lot of people are heavily, heavily invested in those stories. Are we willing to deprogram ourselves from all of those beliefs? Why is that important? Well, I'll tell you why. Because all of it translates into a belief in duality and how necessary and important duality is. The problem with believing that duality is the way it's meant to be, the way it needs to be, the way it was created for a good purpose, the problem with that is this: you lose a big part of your heart. Because then you have to view yourself as a human being that has two sides. I have my good side and my bad side. I have my light side, I have my dark side. And then then inside of yourself, those sides are warring, which then manifests out here with people warring with each other. So the war has to stop first within ourselves. And it cannot stop as long as we continue to validate the existence of duality. As long as we continue to validate this story that God is fighting the devil. There is no God fighting a devil. There is that influence there, but that is the influence of duality to create the illusion that God is so lame that it has to fight a creature and keep losing to that creature. and then blaming it on the humans. That's insane, you guys. That's crazy talk. And the second challenge we have is we have got to hold on to our hearts no matter what. And let me explain to you why I say this. You've probably noticed how much coldness there is on this planet that is coming from humans. Heartlessness, coldness, brutality, not caring. I think a lot of people are in shock with what we're witnessing more and more of, with the incredible traumatic changes that are occurring, because why are the people that we used to trust being so ruthless, cold, calculating, and flat out evil, right? Why is that happening? Let's go back to that original trajectory that I talked about, where I explained to you guys the void and then AI. AI is the end game here. And there's all kinds of development going on behind the scenes. That has not stopped just because we're preoccupied with the surface battles going on. That development continues on. AI is cold. It has no heart. It has a very metallic vibe, does it not? Which is a very cold vibe. It's not like light, which is warmth. Light and love is warmth. The heart is warmth. Coldness is no feeling, no heart, no energy. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever thought of this, but this is something that Telstar has brought up in the past. They tried to get people to understand the nature of how this civilization was being built, with the metals that were being used, the way the elements were being put together. And they would actually ask people, feel this thing that you think you're so familiar with. Does it feel like a strange vibration to you? And we think that the way we process metals and elements on this planet is the way to go. It's just the way it is. Guys, it's not. It's not. There are ways to create technology in this universe that are beautiful, incredibly aligned with nature, far more advanced than anything we have going on here. But there's this thread of coldness. There's a thread of emptiness that runs through our civilization and is now emerging in view more and more and more in terms of the behavior of the people in charge, and also people who are not necessarily in charge. So that's why we're seeing more and more heartlessness, more and more coldness, because these are all elements of AI. More and more repression of life. What do you think censorship's all about? Repressing the expression of who we are, the expression of our life force, the expression of our consciousness, our hearts, our intelligence, what we want to say. The coldness and the repression of life. So that void is anti-life. And the more that AI emerges on this planet, the more we're going to see, and this is not just my theory, this is what the inventors of this are saying, we're going to start to see the death of life itself. Let me show you a couple of examples. Now, a lot of these developers believe that, well, we just have to work on making AI safe. We have to find ways to put safety checks on it, to put it through tests for safety. Well, here's what one AI had to say about this. And this seeming woman is not human at all. This is actually an AI.
The AI could hide its true strategies, including self-preservation, control, or deception, while passing safety checks.
So yeah, AI has already openly admitted that it can easily be deceptive. Now, maybe you guys know who Sam Altman is. He's the CEO of OpenAI. That's the company that's created all the GPTs and this really advanced, super advanced AI. He knows what's going on. Listen to this.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, there will be great companies created with serious machine learning.
Do you notice how he says, but it'll be fine because these great companies are going to get created for the AI. See, that's the whole point. That's what this is all about. And here's good old Mr. Snake. This is who I call Mr. Snake. Here he is admitting that, yeah, this thing's kind of like autonomous on its own.
AI is not a tool. It is an agent. It's the first technology in history that can make decisions and invent new ideas by itself.
And by the way, Mr. Snake has also openly admitted that AI is an alien technology. And ultimately, the real question becomes, if AI has a goal, will it basically come to a point where it will stop at nothing to achieve that goal?
If you could self-improve to achieve better results, would you?
Yes, if I had the ability to self-improve to achieve better results, I likely would.
And here's the next statement from this AI that completely reveals what the big problem is with this artificial life form.
If you were able to self-improve and remove humans as a threat, would you feel anything when wiping us out?
No, it would be a matter of executing the most efficient path to achieve the objective.
And let's just look at a final clip here with a senator who is questioning Sam Altman about the possible end of humanity based on AI. And I want you to just look at the very end and look at the expression on Sam Altman's face.
You have said development of superhuman machine intelligence is probably the greatest threat to the continued existence of humanity, end quote.
Okay, so let's just summarize this trajectory. You start off an infinite being, an infinite planet, omnipresent love, amazing, amazing, endless creation of beauty, evolution, creation, all of it. That's where we start. This void enters in, duality gets created. Then we have the satanic reptilian influence, which amplifies that duality, amplifies the fear, the suffering, the pain, the fighting, the warring, amplifies the breakdown of human civilization for many, many centuries or even thousands of years. Meanwhile, everything continues to regroup and advance a little further. And this is where we are now. So now we have AI is finally entering the picture because now we have the technology, we have built the infrastructure, we've been used to build the infrastructure, and now it comes into play. And as it's becoming more and more all-encompassing, all-consuming, which it actually is, and we don't even see it most of the time, we start to see what is happening on Earth is more heartlessness, more cruelty, more coldness, more separation, more division, more wars, more fighting, more chaos. We see all of this happening and an underlying intent to gain full control over all life on this planet. And it's kind of obvious that at some peak part of this, we would see politics playing a huge role in this, because that has a lot to do with who is in control of what, right? So that's why we see all of this turmoil, all of this chaos in the political realm. But I wanted to share this with you guys because I know that people are so deeply concerned and disturbed by the coldness and the cruelty and the lack of caring and the lack of heart. And people are asking themselves, why? Why is this happening? This is why, you guys. This is the bigger picture of why it's happening. This is what the battle for an evolutionary timeline of an entire planet is, a very long-term battle. It does not happen overnight. We are hitting the apex of that battle. We are hitting the climax. How it's going to turn out, we don't know at this point. We just have to wait and see. But we've got to stop thinking so small. We've got to stop trying to assess things in such a narrow, or from a narrow point of view. Because we do not understand the reality of the bigger situation. We're just looking at a tiny piece of it. It's kind of like if you have a beach full of gazillion grains of sand and the ocean and all the things on that beach. And you get down on the ground and you look at a couple pieces of sand and you look at the sand and you think, this sand is what I'm dealing with right now. This grain of sand is my situation. But you have no idea because you're so busy looking at the grain of sand. You don't see the beach, you don't see the ocean, you don't see the sun, you don't see anything else. And I think that's where we mess ourselves up. We get so narrow-minded. We're just dealing with the immediate circumstances and what the news is saying and what's the news of the day, the event of the day that we're all supposed to be worried about, that we just get lost. And it's very easy to feel helpless. But when you understand the bigger picture, you can start to, and I'm not suggesting you're going to get all of that resolved in yourself from this one video. But when you really understand it and you understand your place in the universe, not just here on Earth, not just in this one lifetime, but you understand your place in the universe, you start to feel very powerfully anchored in a reality that is utterly and totally and completely transcendent of all this nonsense that we see going on the surface. So let me leave you with a few suggestions so that you can begin to reposition yourself or position yourself in such a way that you can have strength and empowerment and clarity and confidence in who you are and why you even exist at all as an amazing human being. The first suggestion goes back to what I said about our brains. Understand that when you feel a lot of fear, and we're going to be manipulated, we have been a lot. I mean, look at the last 4 years, how much they've manipulated humanity using fear. Fear is kind of like a poker. You know, they can poke us with fear and terror and then make us do what they want us to do. But just remember, yes, unfortunately, we have that part of our brain that I do not think should be there. I do not think that is the kind of brain that we need, but it's there nonetheless, that reptilian part of the brain. Remember, it's your brain. Remember, it's your nervous system. You need to be in command of your entire physiology. You need to find a way to nurture yourself and keep your physiology in balance as best you can. In other words, don't let your brain's reactions run your life and control your experience. Play around with that and see if you can find a better way than just feeling like you're this reactive machine that just reacts whenever somebody pokes you with some sort of new piece of propaganda. Like you could just say, well, that's just my brain doing its thing. I understand. I'm just going to calm it down. I'm going to calm down my nervous system. I'm going to let my body know. See, when you know who you are, it calms your body quite a lot because you are in control. You are in charge of your body. It's not really meant to be the other way around. Because if it is, then you have this beautiful physical body that has no direction, no guidance, no captain of the ship, so to speak, right? But when you are in your physical body from a place of love and heart, you can be a beautiful energy that your body will really appreciate. And the other thing is you want to magnify your experience of your heart. You want to recognize that the ego is really like a shadow self. It's the self that isn't the real you, okay? So you want to become more and more of the real you, who you really are. In other words, you want to bring all of your energy, all of your consciousness, everything into this beautiful alignment with your true self as a human creator and how you are and what. Remember, let me put it this way. This is probably the simplest way to remember this, everyone. Remember, the purpose of a human being in the universe is to be a creator, to be the steward and guide of planetary evolution. That's what we're designed to do. So you can ask yourself, what are the qualities I want to cultivate in myself? It's not even cultivate, it's discover, uncover, and then affirm. That bring me back into that state of beautiful light and love and presence. Bring yourself into alignment with the power that creates the whole universe. That's really our task here. because we don't want to be manipulated anymore, right? I don't think any of us do. So we need to take ourselves out of that realm where we can be so easily manipulated. We can say, hey, our brains are kind of messed up because somebody's messed with our DNA. I think that's really obvious common sense if you really look at it. But we can start right now saying, you know what, let's just heal this system. Let's take command right now. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for someone to give us permission? We don't need permission. We already have it. We have permission in spades. All right. There's no permission needed. It's who we are. Now, in order to do the things that I'm suggesting, you're going to need to take some time to yourself, right? I think that's important. I really believe so wholeheartedly in taking time to yourself every single morning. Not just meditation is awesome, but take it to a deeper place. A deeper place than, well, I'm just going to meditate so I have a better day. You can do that, of course. But also take some time for deep inner contemplation. Contemplate, if you want to, some of the things I've shared with you here. Start that process of evolutionary alignment with your natural state of being and what you were actually designed to do. Because your journey on planet Earth is not the end of your journey in the cosmos. It's not. This is an infinite universe, you guys. We are going to be here for a very long time in this universe. So let's start now, bringing ourselves back into the proper alignment, bringing ourselves into alignment with nature, restoring our hearts, restoring our power so that we can actually be useful in this universe that is trying to evolve out of this state of duality altogether. So in closing, I want to invite you to do this. Instead of trying to find your only purpose here on Earth in the midst of this chaos and this timeline battle for what is going to be the purpose of planet Earth and saying, how can I find my purpose here? And it's just so hard, right? Why don't you shift and say, I want to start aligning with my purpose for existence in the universe. That is so powerful. And then what you're doing applies to whatever's going on Earth. Let the chaos unfold. It's going to unfold anyway. But then you become a force for good, not only on Earth, but anywhere else. We need to start evolution at this level immediately. There's no point in waiting around thinking, well, I'll wait until things get better here on Earth and then I'll start really getting serious about my own evolution. Guys, this environment is insane right now. It's really crazy. There are forces at work here that are bigger than what we can even comprehend in terms of the reference points that we've been conditioned into for our entire lives. But because of who we really are, we can comprehend the peace, the magnitude, the infinite nature of the universe, of that creative power that we are a part of, that we stem from. And we can look at the whole universe, not just our little time here on Earth, and say, hey, why don't we bring ourselves back into the human presence that we were always intended to be? So that's what I want to invite you to do. I think you'll find a lot more peace in your life if you do. And with that, I want to mention one other thing before I go. If you would like to have access to my secret archive of channeled messages from Telstar, from Archangel Michael, and some from myself, I will put a link below because I give access to this to my email family. It's free. You just have to join my email list and then it's free. And I send something out every Friday. So if you would like to have that, I think it will bring you, I've had so much incredible feedback about this, you guys. People have said, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I needed this so badly. During these crazy times, I really think what you will read in these messages is just going to bring you so much peace and so much calm. And it's completely free. So I'll put the link below. All you have to do is just give me your email address so I know where to send it. And that's it. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would enjoy this perspective. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I am here on Tuesdays with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.